everybody. This is the Hungry House Husband, and today I'm bringing you Italian loaf. This is a very versatile recipe, as you can put any kind of flavorings into it that you want. I keep a version of cheddar for sandwiches, and I keep an Italian version, which is what I'm going to do today, for garlic breads and Italian sandwiches. So here's what we're going to need today. 2¼ teaspoons of active dry yeast, 1 teaspoon of granulated sugar, 1 cup of warm water, 2½ cups of bread or all-purpose flour, 2 tablespoons of olive oil, and 1 teaspoon of salt. Add to that any kind of seasonings that you would like to add, be it Mrs. Dash or whatever flavor spice blend that you feel like grabbing. Alright, so let's get this party started. I've already mixed my water and my yeast and let it sit and rise for 5 minutes. When you come back to it, it should look something akin to this, nice and foamy. If it's not, then your yeast is dead and you need to get new yeast. So to this, we're going to add our first ½ cup of flour and give that a good stir with a whisk. Now a note on yeast. Yeast love sugar. They're kind of like a teenager. All they do is sit around, eat sugar, and pass gas all day. However, they abhor salt. So if you put the flour in and then the salt, you have a nice buffer between the two so that the yeast won't die. And again, if your yeast dies, the bread doesn't rise. So here we're going to go ahead and add the salt and the 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Again, that helps as a buffer, and it also helps to keep the inside of the bread nice and moist. At this point, you're going to go ahead and whisk this all together. It doesn't look like much right now, but it will here in just a moment. We're going to go ahead and add another ½ cup of flour and just mix that up a little bit at a time. This is not a race. You're not beating a clock here. You are going for total incorporation. Now after a while it's going to get hard to whisk, so go ahead, switch to a spoon, and at this point go ahead also add in whatever seasonings you would like. You could do the seasonings earlier. However, I found that sometimes with this seasoning in particular, it tends to get a little mushy, the seasonings do, not as flavorful. So I usually wait a little bit longer, but you would have normally put them in back when it was pancake batter type stage. So go ahead and mix the seasonings in and just keep adding flour a little bit at a time until it starts to become a shaggy dough. So as you can see here, we've gone ahead and hit shaggy dough stage for the most part. Go ahead, scrape all those clinging parts off of your spoon and just toss them back into the bowl. And we are going to go get some flour and flour up our work surface. Now keep in mind, don't need a lot of flour. I'd put down about 1/8 of a cup or so. Just spread it around a little bit. We just don't want the dough to stick to the counter. Go ahead, dump your dough out onto it. So our dough is going to be really sticky. It's going to stick to your hands. It's going to stick to anything that does not have flour on it, as you can see. So kind of scrape it into a pile if you can, and then we want to put flour on it. The flour will take away the sticky. We don't want clinging, we want tacky. We want something akin to the back of a sticker, but not something that's going to come away with your finger. So just continue. Anytime you feel that the dough is sticking to you, throw a little flour on it. Not a lot, just a tablespoon or so. Fold and keep kneading. Now my kneading technique is kind of a finger to heel of hand until it gets to be a little long, then fold it over and continue on. You can develop your own kneading technique. It does not matter. All we're doing here is building the gluten that's going to make the bread nice and chewy and make it have form and substance. So once you're done with this, it will push back at you when you poke it. So once you get to that stage, we want to form a ball. Then we're going to take that ball and put it into a oiled or sprayed bowl and cover it up with a towel for the next hour. So now that our hour is up, I'm going to go ahead and take off the towel here and show you that the dough has indeed doubled in size. Now this will depend on humidity and everything else, but go ahead and once it's to this stage, punch it down, which is probably the most fun part of this entire thing, and then we want to just lay it out. Now this is a single bread loaf recipe. You get one decent sized loaf out of this. If you double the recipe, you could probably get easily two or several small ones. So with our dough on a floured surface, we're going to go ahead and start coaxing it into a rectangle shape. We hopefully would aim for something about the size of a legal piece of paper, about 12 inches long, give or take. But whatever size suits you, that's what you want to go for. Now, don't freak out if it tears. You don't want to force it to that point, but if it does, just pinch the dough back together, give it a pat, and that's all there is to it. You can keep going from there. Now, once you get it to the length that you'd like, you can go ahead and roll it, kind of like a cinnamon roll. And don't worry about all these little bits of dust flour on here, not going to make a difference, and I'll show you later. So here we are, we're going to go ahead and pinch the seams closed. And then you are going to want to fold the ends over just to get that nice loaf shape. Now here we are done with the kneading, and we are going to take it and put it on a sheet tray, either an oiled sheet tray, or in my case I use a parchment paper lined sheet tray, whatever works for you. And you want to place it seam side down. We are then going to cover it again, start your oven preheating, and let it sit for about 30 minutes so we can get our second rise. So here it's been 30 minutes. I'm going to take the towel off and see that it's risen a little bit. Go ahead, give it a shallow cut along the top. I go lengthwise. You can do little cuts across the top in a diagonal, whatever suits your fancy. It's just to release steam and also to make it pretty. But with that, we're ready for the oven. Now here we are 30 minutes later, and the bread is finished. I've sprinkled a little bit of Parmesan on top just for kicks. You know that your bread is completely done when you can flip it over and hear this. The bottom should sound just like that. It should have no push into it. It shouldn't be soft and doughy or anything like that. Now the final step I like to do is take a little bit of melted butter, about a tablespoon or so, and just brush it on the outside. After you've got your butter on it, go ahead and place a towel over it while it cools. This will keep it nice and soft. And there you have it, Italian loaf. Perfect for garlic bread or sandwiches, whatever floats your boat. I hope you enjoyed this video. As always, like, comment, subscribe. It helps me out a lot. And may your food and your life always have flavor. Bye-bye.